Good morning. I would like to welcome and thank you for taking the time to be part of the California Microbusiness COVID-19 Relief Grant Program Information webinar. Hi, I'm Cindy Mirzan and the Director for the CalCoastal Small Business Development Center, a resource provider for the California Office of Small Business Advocate and an outreach partner of the Monterey County Workforce Development Board. All microphones have been placed on mute and this webinar is being recorded. We invite you to put your questions in the Q&A box in the ribbon in the bottom of your Zoom window. And I want to remind you that questions will not be answered live, but will be added with the answers to those questions on the Microbusiness Grant website following the webinar. So everyone will have access to the same information at the same time. And you should be able to see the link to that website in your chat box, where we will be placing links and information where you can find everything on the website that we'll be talking about in the webinar today. The California Microbusiness COVID-19 Relief Grant is a program administered by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, or CalOSBA. The program provides competitive grants to eligible businesses impacted by COVID-19 and the related health and safety restrictions. The amounts that were made available to each county are based on the population as determined from the latest population estimates from the California Department of Finance. With the assistance of several partners, such as the CalCoastal SBDC, the Monterey County Workforce Development Board will be administering this grant program on behalf of the County of Monterey. Our next slide will show all of the partners that are involved, to which you may be hearing outreach information or to which you can go for technical assistance. These are the partners assisting the Monterey County Workforce Development Board help all eligible Monterey County businesses know about how to apply for the grant. Free technical assistance is available to you in English and in Spanish from these providers. Although this webinar is being presented in English, a Spanish language webinar will be presented soon, and the date and the link for that webinar will be placed on the website, the grant website, which you received the link in your chat on the last slide. You can, however, find a copy of these slides, the ones that we're talking about today, both in English and in Spanish on the website. I would encourage you to grab a pen and paper if you don't have one yet, so that you can write down contact information or thoughts that you have throughout the webinar. And the very last slide will provide contact information for each of these technical assistance providers, and the contact information for those providers is also listed on the website. So we want to make sure you have plenty of access to these providers to help you. Let's review our agenda for the rest of the webinar. So this presentation has been structured to answer several questions for you. Specifically, the purpose of the program, who is a qualified microbusiness that can apply for and receive this grant, how you may spend the expenses, how you may spend the grant on expenses that you have, supporting documents that will be required to submit your grant application, the complete application process, technical assistance that's available to you, and questions. As I mentioned before, the questions, I encourage you throughout the webinar to type your questions into the Q&A box as we go along. One, so you don't forget them. And two, so that we can make sure that your questions all get answered along with other questions that we've received. And again, those will be placed in the frequently asked questions section of the website for the grant. The purpose of this grant is to assist qualified microbusinesses that have been significantly impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. That pretty much fits all microbusinesses in Monterey County, or most of them. So that's not a super scary thing in terms of meeting eligibility. You can find the detailed information about this under timeline and funding availability. There will be a little chat remark that reminds you of that as well. The grants that are available will be a total of $2,500 to each eligible microbusiness that is selected for the award. Monterey County has received enough money to make 180 grants at $2,500 each. Hooray, today is the opening date for the application. So as of March the 28th today, this application period is open until all funds are exhausted. So the quicker you apply, the better chance you have of being able to grab one of these 180 grants. So eligible microbusinesses. A business owner must attest as part of their application under the penalty of perjury that they meet the following criteria in order to be eligible to apply for the grant. One is that they did not previously receive a grant from the California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program. This is the grant program that was administered for the state of California by an organization called Lindustry. And that grant program had several rounds of funding and ended at the end of 2021. So if you got one of those grants, you would not be eligible for this program. However, you could have received any number of other grants or help, COVID relief help, and it would not disqualify you from being eligible to apply for this one. You have to have established and have your business in operation prior to December 31st, 2019. Your business must be currently active and operating or have a clear plan to reopen. So it's detailed out, you have a timeline, you have laid out how you're going to open the business. You must have been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Your business had less than $50,000 in revenues in the 2019 taxable year. So remember, this focuses on micro businesses, not just small, medium, or large micro businesses. And your business has currently fewer than 5 full-time equivalent employees, as well as having fewer than 5 full-time equivalent employees in 2019 and 2020 taxable years. You must be able to provide government-issued photo identification. That photo ID could have been issued by any state or any federal, domestic, or foreign government. So your photo ID could come from anywhere in the US, Canada, Mexico, any other countries that you have a photo ID. Your application must be submitted by the owner of the microbusiness, who is also the majority owner of the business and the manager, and the microbusiness must be the owner's primary means of income. In other words, this business can't be a side gig and your primary income comes from something else. In terms of an eligible business, it's pretty much the opposite of all of the eligibility bullets I just went through, but I'll go through these and remind you. A micro business is not eligible if you received a California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant. Remember, that's the one that was administered by Lindustry for the state of California. If your business was established and in operation after December 31st, 2019, then you would not be eligible. If your business is permanently closed with no intention of reopening, no plan to reopen, you would not be eligible. If you had more than $50,000 in revenues in the 2019 taxable year, you would not be eligible. If your business has more than 5 full-time equivalent employees now, or had more than 5 full-time equivalent employees in 2019 and 2020, you would not be eligible. And if you are unable to provide a government-issued photo identification or you're a nonprofit organization, you would not be eligible to apply. Eligible expenses. The details for eligible expenses can be found on the website under question 21 of the frequently asked questions, but I'll go over them again here. At the end of the application, the microbusiness is required to self-certify that if you are awarded the grant funds will only be used for the following expenses. 1, the purchase of new equipment, including but not limited to a cart or something to help you recover from COVID problems. 2, investment in working capital. 3, application for or renewal of or a local permit, including but not limited to a permit to operate as a sidewalk vendor. That's a mouthful. So let me give you an example. If you are a restaurant and you had to apply for a permit to open up sidewalk services for your restaurant, you had to apply with your city to do that, and you probably had to pay a fee. So you could expend these grant funds to reimburse yourself for the cost of that application. Payment of business debt accrued due to COVID-19 pandemic. So if you had to get a loan because of the pandemic and you're making payments, you could use some of these grant funds to pay that back. And finally, costs resulting from COVID-19 pandemic and related to health and safety restrictions or business interruptions or closures incurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So you can accumulate up to $2,500 of expenses that are tied to these areas and use your grant to reimburse your business for those costs. The supporting documents that the county will require is that all eligible applicants will need to submit copies of the following documents. As I said earlier, government-issued photo identification that are either from a state, domestic, or foreign government, such as a driver's license, a passport, or a state ID. Your 2019 federal tax return, Form 1049, Schedule C, which lists the business name, address, and employer identification number. A payroll record that provides proof of the number of full-time employees that must be as recent as March 20th or later. So a payroll record that clearly identifies how many employees you have. It only has to be one, and you can pick the time frame as long as it's as of March 2020 or later. You have to have a W-9, which you will complete, and a vendor data record, which is a form that's required by the county in order for them to make a payment to your business, the grant payment that you will be receiving. So under application instructions and tips on the website, and I believe that's dropped into chat for you, it is really important that you utilize that as a checklist to help you make sure that you've reviewed all of the eligibility requirements and you have all of the required supporting documents. Remember, the application period opens today. So if you had all of that information pulled together, you could apply today, and you could apply in one of three ways. Applications may be submitted beginning today, as I said, until all funds have been exhausted. You may submit your application either online, which is the preferred and recommended method, because the quicker you get your application into someone's hands for review, the better chance you have of being able to access one of those limited grants that are available for our county. You can also apply in person at the Monterey County Workforce Development Board office at 344 Salinas Street, Suite 101 in Salinas. Their office is open from Monday through Friday between 8:30 and 4:30 p.m. Or finally, you can apply by mail to the Monterey County Workforce Development Board at that same address that I just gave. It's important remembering that time is limited, and the best way to make sure that your application is considered quickly is online and in descending order, then in person, and then by mail. If you have any questions about any of this, or you want help with your application, you can email the Monterey County Workforce Development Board at mcsbg@co.monterey.co.us. And that also should be dropped into your chat box for you. But if not, you'll find it. We'll have it on the screen a little bit later and also dropping in the chat box, so you make sure you have access to this. So again, during the application process, they will not consider incomplete applications. So it's really important that you're looking at that website and looking at the list of things that you need to do to make sure that when you submit your application, it is complete and it is considered. Email is the main format of communication for follow-up and updates. So say you submit your application and then you have questions about something that you submitted, or you need to change something or whatever. The best way to contact the Workforce Development Board is, again, to email mcsbg@co.monterey.ca.us. And finally, I want to remind you about the vendor data record form. Remember that this form is the document the county will use to mail you a check in the amount of the grant. So you want to make sure that your contact information that you provide is accurate, particularly the mailing address. And if you choose to have your check mailed to a location other than your business address, make sure that you list that address in the Remit To section of the form. And I believe that's on the right-hand side of the form. Again, you can find all of this information under the Application Instructions and Tips section of the website, and that should be listed in your chat box. So here you go. Here's a list of all the technical assistance providers that I promised that I would be giving you. Our partners are available to provide technical assistance to you for completing your online application. If you need translation of some kind, if you have questions that you need answered that you cannot find on the website, contact a technical assistance provider and they'll work with you to get the answer. This list is also found on the website under the section called Need Additional Assistance ? So if you want to take a screenshot of this, you will have the phone numbers and the website addresses for each of the providers, or again, you can pick these up on the website. We'll leave the Q&A section open for a few minutes to give you time to enter your questions that you have not been able to enter yet. Remember that all of the questions and answers will be added to the website FAQs. They will not be answered live today, but you will have an opportunity to get your answer. So please enter your questions, type them into the Q&A box at the bottom. And as I said, we'll leave it open for a few minutes so you have time to enter your last minute questions. For those of you who have already entered your questions and gotten the information that you need, we want to thank you for joining us today and let us know how we can help you in applying for this grant or other assistance that you might need.